All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone, who very well, very beautifully. Double salutations to the Akim and her pushing this gospel in truth and sincerity to the best of their ability, given to them by Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Peace, blessings, and salutations be unto the elect scattered abroad. May the election of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord willing, fall upon all your houses. It's the brother Quana Watts from the Arizona Great Millstone Camp. Come back at you, Lord will, with edifying lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Lord will. It is edifying, Lord will. It is straight to the point. And as you see here on the screen, I have the word solace, which says right here, it says to comfort someone, right? Console in grief or trouble, and really the inspiration for this video, right, as I was ultimately, putting together, some articles and, some precepts for, another lesson, that I had gone into, and, just thinking about, and really because it was ultimately going in on Esau, and all the different things that he had done to us, that evidence, which Lord will, after this video, I'll be able to get into it, if the Spirit will allow, but just thinking about what's coming to Esau and, how he's going to have to pay for all the different things, that he has done, right, that ultimately brings, comfort, right, that brings, solace, right, because we're getting into the scriptures and we're seeing what Esau Edom's judgment is going to be, again, which is the inspiration for this video, right? It's the reason why, the title of the video is, to seek solace, right, in this world. And the only way that we're going to receive that comfort, the only way that we're going to receive, reprieve, if you will, is through the words of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? Seeking Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, right? Whether that be watching the videos, right? Whether that be reading, right? Whether that be, listening to the audiobook, right? These are things that we have to do, as we read right here. Let me grab this. And what is that? 2 Timothy 3 and verse. No, it's like here. 4 and. No, it is. 1 Timothy's. Slack it, man. Right here, slack. 1 Timothy 4 and 13, it says, till I come, give attendance to reading, to exhortation, and to doctrine. So we're supposed to be reading, man, right? Again, some brothers, they be on the move. They're on, they listen to the audiobook, right? As long as you're meditating and not just listening to noise in the background, but you're actually listening, right? Learning, writing down precepts, right? Studying, right? Scriptures say to study this, show thyself approved. As long as we're doing those things, right, that's still gonna, benefit us, man, because again, right, as we, go through this world and as we move in this world, man, we see, a lot of vexations, right? We deal with a lot of vexations, right? We're still, subject, right, to payments. We're still under the captivity of our oppressors, man, and we're, we see the fruit, right, of his rulership, man. Wickedness, nothing but wickedness being spread across the earth, and that's vexing, right? And that can be, it can be depressing and stressful, right? At times, man, and really, right, what we are to do to combat that, right, is to get into the scriptures, man. Right, to read, right, as it says, till I come, give attendance to reading, right, reading, to exhortation, and to doctrine, right, which when you go into exhortation, it ultimately goes into, comforting somebody, man, you know what I mean, by encouraging them, so this is how we, ultimately combat, that stress and that, that vexing spirit, right? As we come to the scriptures and the scriptures let us know that this isn't it, right? 2 Corinthians 4, verse 17 and 18, Romans 8, that Isaiah, the 60th chapter, which I recently went into a lesson in on that, just dealing with that, right? Those things let us know, as well as judgment on Esau, Edom, man, as well as, giving you understanding of why, we're in this position, man. Those things, should give you a form of comfort, man, right? Knowing those things, because then you're not just stuck with the why, how, when, so on and so forth, man. Not getting answers. The Lord gave us all the answers, through the spirit and power, again, of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. We have all the answers, man. We just have to seek them out, right? By going to the scriptures, by going and seeking that understanding, right? We learn through the scriptures, as well as the living examples that we do have, beginning with the elder apostles on down, right? Elder bishops, elders, Akim, right? The priests, following those men and listen to their videos and their testimonies and how they moved and, in certain situations and so on and so forth. We learn how to be a man. We learn how to, to take care of our household, right? We learn how to move at the job. We learn all these different things, man, right? Which allow us to, have some kind of peace. Yahweh Shai said it best, man. In the world, you shall have tribulation. Matter of fact, let me grab that. This is St. John chapter 16. And I just get to a point, verse 33. It says, these things I have spoken unto you, that in me ye might have peace. And we know that Yahweh Shai was the word made flesh, right? So Yahweh Shai was with us, at that time, right? Physically. And now Yahweh Shai is with us spiritually, man. As we get into the scriptures, man, and through the spirit, Yahweh Shai, supping with us, man. Him knocking on that door, we answering the call, right? Opening up the door, and now the Lord is supping with us, man, which is ultimately an intimate, an intimate thing, right? Sitting there, now you're, you eating, drinking and supping, and now, you're telling stories and you get education, when two men sit down and, they ultimately, just speak, right? That's really what's going on, man, through the spirit, right? Yahweh Shai sitting down with us, right? And giving us the understanding, which again, it comforts us, man. It should give you, a sense of comfort. That's why it says that in me ye shall have peace, man. It says in the world ye shall have tribulation. So we deal with these different things out here, man. And it can be stressful and it can be, overwhelming at times, man. Hey, King David, I think it's Psalms the 102nd chapter. Let me pull that up right here. That Psalms 102. Yeah, let me finish this out, though. It says, but be of good cheer, I have overcome the world, man. And see, again, right, as we read the scriptures, right, and we see that Yahweh Shai, we look at everything that he hath, done, right, that, and how he stayed faithful, remained faithful, right, to the Heavenly Father, and was, able to, again, overcome the different trials and tribulations. We, as we read, right, again, reading, right, that gives us the comfort that, Yahweh Shai telling us that we can do it too. You know what I mean? Because again, times can be overwhelming, man, right? As we move through, this world, right, all the different things, especially since, the left-hand spirits are turning up, man, right? The demonic, and satanic symbols that are being shown, as well as the different acts and whatnot that we see, these different commercials and so on and so forth, man. We see all that shit, man. And we got to combat that shit. All the, Satan, attacking our minds and our bodies, attacking brothers, attacking your families, all these different things that we got to, attacking you financially, might attack your car. I thought Satan, was going to fuck up my car today, man. This shit just turned off randomly at a stoplight, man. And immediately, I prayed to the Lord, But see, hey, that's beautiful going into Psalms, that 102nd chapter, man. because hey, bros is dealing with a lot right now, man. And at that moment, right, again, I was just like, oh, fuck, another thing, within my mind. And the first thing you do is what? Cry to the Lord, man. That's exactly, right here. Psalms 102 and verse 1, it says, pray. It says, a prayer of one overwhelmed with trouble, pouring out problems before the Lord. This is the NLT, pouring out problems, saying, hey, Lord, I'm going through this, It says, Lord, hear my prayer. Listen to my plea. Don't turn away from me in my time of distress. Bend down to listen and answer me quickly when I call to you. And this is what things we make these prayers, man. We make these prayers, man. That the Lord hears our prayers and answers our prayers speedily, man. Coming boldly to the throne of Yahweh Bashim El Shah, man. And the Lord, speaks to us in different ways, man. He'll have it to where he shows you, a video of a brother, doing a lesson, and it'll comfort you, right? Or you'll and if you need rebuking, right? The Lord will have it to where you watch a rebuke video, or a brother going in or bringing out a certain precept against a certain thing. And then, hey, the Lord will have you learn that way, man. Or you listen to an audio book, man. You listen to the scriptures or reading, And the Lord will ultimately comfort you, right? As the scriptures say, wherefore comfort one another with these words. When a brother bringing out a precept, you know what I mean? Or you're hearing a precept, audio book, or reading a precept, and the Lord will comfort you, man. This is why, again, this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is our solace, man, as we walk in this world. Let me bring out this precept, man, which was the ultimate, the precept that immediately came to my mind, right, when I thought about that, right? Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 8. And we'll start at the top, right, just to give you some, some context. Again, this is going in, right, the 6th, the 7th, and the 8th chapter, right, heavily touch on wisdom, man, as well as even the 9th chapter, right? Wisdom of Solomon 8 and verse 1, it says, wisdom reacheth from one end to another mightily, and sweetly doth she order all things, right? So again, this, is going into wisdom. I want to drop down to the point in verse 9, right? It says, therefore I purposed to take her to me to live with me, right? Knowing that she would be a counselor of good things, right? Instructions in righteousness, right? As you get into the scriptures, right? And as Yahweh Shai supping with you through the Spirit, man, and you really, reading about the, the law, statutes, commandments, how our forefathers moved in certain situations, and you learn how to move according to, what is pleasing unto Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, which is, again, according to the law, statutes, and commandments. You know what I mean? It says, and a comfort in cares and grief. So this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is our solace, man. Is our peace. Yahweh, when you take heed to the scriptures, when you're in the scriptures to the best of your ability, man, you should receive a level of comfort getting into the scriptures, man. You could be having a bad fucking day, man, all day. Come home and read, and that'll bring forth some comfort unto you, man. This is why it's very important we get into the scriptures, And again, right, the Lord, sees, right, what we have to deal with in this world. Sometimes you ain't got enough time to sit down and really, structure a lesson. Sometimes you got to move in the spirit, That's what I noticed, right? And I don't know this brother personally, the priest personally, right? The priest Shaman, which I've talked about him recently in the last lesson. You notice that brother GMS Overdrive, he's always doing a lesson, in his car on the move. You know what I mean? Sometimes it be like that, man. So sometimes, the spirit will hit, you got a topic, and as you go into it, right, it might be a various topics, and now you're speaking the spirit through the spirit, speaking on other things, and as you get done with the lesson, you start to meditate on what was said through the spirit, and that'll bring comfort to you as well, man. It's beautiful how the Lord moves, man. How the Lord, again, how we, are able to get into these scriptures, man, and just, be able to breathe. Because Because these scriptures are life, man. That breath coming back into us, which again, right? Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter, again, speaking on wisdom. And I think it's verse, it's near the bottom though. Right here. Wisdom of Solomon 7 and verse 24 says, for wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of the Most High, right? The breath, right? It says, for she is the breath of the power of the Most High, and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore can no defiled thing fall into her, right? Again, hey, man, getting into his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding is very important, man. Right? This is that life, right? When we got to go out and be amongst the dead, right? It's draining. But we get that recharge when we get into the scriptures, man. Stay in the scriptures, man. And I speak for myself first and foremost, man. Sometimes it is hard, man. But you got to force yourself, man. Apostle Paul said he keeps his body right under subjection, man. We got to fight this fucking flesh. Pray to the Lord. Constantly be praying, man. It's very important, man. Very, very, very important, right? We can't stress that enough, man. Hey, but get this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding before it's too late, man. As it says, right now, close out with this. Isaiah chapter 33 and verse 6. It says, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times, and the strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is his treasure. This wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, man. And don't take it lightly, man. Because not only is it our comfort, right? But it's our lifeline, man. It's literally our lifeline. Lord, will we be of the elect, right? Receiving this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right, will ultimately guide you, right, in how you need to act in order to be, and how you need to move, right, and what you need to know about certain things that are happening around you, so that way you can see and prepare, right, so that way you're approved of the Lord, so that way we can receive salvation, right? It's through this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding we will receive salvation, man. Again, by taking heed, right? Ultimately what? Taking heed to Yahweh Shai, man. Praising Yahweh Shai. But that's all I wanted to grab, man. I was just moving, I just kind of sparked through the spirit, man. Lord will was edifying. Lord will, straight to the point. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rachak, Wadash, double honor to the elder apostles, and the bishops, the great millstone. Till next time I say shalom.